I'm gonna say a little bit about what I've just said, just so folks who are tuning in online know what we're talking about. So right now, this is our second session in the 6-week cycle for Ontology 101. We're talking about domain expert engagement. So we've identified some domain experts who will be played here by John and Sam, and they are going to be experts in airplane maintenance. And so we'll be discussing like kind of how to leverage ontologies and semantic tooling to kind of address pain points in like something like optimization problems around like regular maintenance and emergency case maintenance. And so today we'll be discussing, more details about what that area looks like from the domain expert's perspective. In the interest of informing our next session, we'll be constructing design patterns or visual representations about the domain, about questions emerging out of it. Hopefully, by the end of today's session, we will have one or two rather specific questions about the domain that we can focus in on for those visual representations. So with that, I'm going to pitch it over to the group. Ontologists, i.e., not John and not Sam. What questions might we ask John and Sam to help us uncover more information about the domain, get clear on specific questions we might model to help inform our answers to questions they have?
So I guess like one question would be, like a car would do 6,000 miles, right? Is a plane like in hours or
So this is to John and Sam. So,
So, sorry, I didn't quite catch the question. The second half.
oh
Take it away.
yeah. So like, cars you have to have change the oil every 6,000 miles. What kind of things at every so many hours or miles? What kind of maintenance do you guys have to do and when?
So normally, airplane maintenance is tracked in hours for the engines, and it's the set schedule is on an hour basis.
It's the set hours.
Yep.
And is it and is it just on the engines itself, or do you have to, one every 100 hours you check the engines, every 200 hours you check fuel lines? I mean, what's that entail? Inspections or oil changes or
So there's a whole bunch of different standards. Just like your car, you'll have a set standard every so many thousand hours, or you will have just like your car. Every so many thousand miles, you'll have just an oil change, but at 12,000, you'll have to do an oil change and rotate tires. As it applies to airplanes, engines, there's a whole set schedule of prescribed maintenance that occurs at each set at a set interval, either time or hours based. Um, and obviously, failures happen, and those are addressed as well when they happen.
This is fantastic. So this is exactly the sort of engagement that I'd hope to see. I'm gonna ask somebody else in the room, somebody other than John, Sam, or the other John, to share the screen if that's okay, and maybe we can put some notes in front of everyone. And we start listing off key terms that are coming out of the conversation. So you could, just essentially like yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We can start with broad questions. I definitely do want to see, I think it would be helpful. I think you'll see the helpfulness of having it in front of you as we're listing things off. We're essentially in this game right now of asking questions about what's relevant in the domain, and we definitely want to keep like a notes in front of everybody. You should be in the habit of this. So volunteer, let's do this. I believe in you. You can do it. Don't make me call on somebody. I don't want to be the bad guy.
Share my screen.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it says that it's disabled right now.
Yeah, let me change that. Yep, there you go. Awesome. Fantastic.
I
Thank you.
already have some notes from session 1.
Awesome.
So to answer Caesar's question in the chat, broad questions, that their type of maintenance, it's either event-based or category-based and time-based. You can probably put it in like 3 categories. When I say category, to be a system, the fuel system, the turbine system, but whatever other subsystem of the engine.
And what 3 categories did you say?
Mhm.
Category,
Or
event, and scheduled.
schedules, event schedules, and system, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So types of maintenance, 3 categories. Events.
So to my mind, this is very useful, like structuring, right? So not only do you have, regular maintenance and emergency maintenance, but you've got some information about it's system based, right? And so, they'll call it, Sam's calling it category. That's cool. We don't have to call it category. Definitely, it seems like system based. Sam also said system, right? It seems plausible.
Okay.
And I would think of it as system based, right? So it'd be key to get those systems in place. And I would also ask questions now about the specific details of the systems. Do you have information about fuel system hours? Like how long for fuel system? How are they different across systems? I imagine they are. They wouldn't be making the distinctions.
Mm-hmm. Um,
And the other John, you could feel free to just make stuff up unless it was like, oh man, true.
compass maintenance. And is there logging you have to do? Like I know FAA, I assume once, like when there's a plane crash, they always ask for some kind of records, right? Maintenance logs or something.
Yes, the FAA regulations require they have some very strict documentation requirements on who did what maintenance, when it was done, no matter if it's engine, aircraft, or airframe, rivets, whatever you do on there has some very strict documentation requirements. So it's all documented when the scheduled and unscheduled is done.
Does that documentation also include, I assume pilots have to take documentation, so when it's maintenance time, they say, "Hey, can I have your records?"
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. The pilots are always they generally don't care and they just, ignore the maintenance folks. So the pilots are pretty worthless.
Okay. State laws, keep data, documentation. Um, Let's see.
Would the
Well,
documentation include the location of where the maintenance happens?
Yeah,
Is that
usually
Yeah.
important? Sorry.
there's ways to get the location. It's in the documentation of who did it and where it was conducted.
It can be done at any
And then
airport, or do they have to fly it somewhere?
Uh, Depending on the error, it can be done anywhere. It really just has to be done by a AMP certified mechanic for that particular airframe.
mhm.
Can we also list up the roles as part of this maintenance? Because that could also give us more clues, I guess, right? Like the type of people that are directly involved in the maintenance aspect.
Yeah, because I was just going to ask, like, do these logs have to get verified and or audited and stuff? And to your point, what roles are there?
Um, you want supervisor roles? You want because there's a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, there is somebody who has to sign off and double check your work. There's also roles for you got specific mechanics that are certified in specific areas, engine, fuel maintenance, metal work, um, making sure the outer areas of the plane are working, i.e. riveting the metal onto the frame. There's also hydraulics, because they have hydraulics maintenance, so it depends which area you're talking about. Those are just a couple examples of different systems that require different sorts of skill sets to work on it.
Inspectors too?
Yep, inspectors too.
Okay.
Sometimes if a pilot feels like there might be something off about a plane, they might call that in. So might be worth putting pilots on there as well.
Hmm.
So I want to suggest, so let's keep in mind, like we're focusing on trying to address some pain points being, circling around optimization problems, like optimization about maintenance and whatnot. I think some of these questions are kind of getting there closer than others. And, you can't trust the SMEs to, because they're going to answer the questions you ask. But I want to just encourage asking questions maybe more closely directed to that target. Things like, you know, how long does a given maintenance task typically take, right? This is the kind of input you'd want if I were calculating like optimization across like who can I send where at what time, who can I schedule, given the few people that I have, given the massive number of planes that I have. It's pretty important to know how long steps take, how long like maintenance would take. And that's kind of asking directly at the heart of the question, I think. So let me encourage you that way.
So, in other words, would our questions be metrics based? Like we're expecting an outcome based on the question that we're asking?
In some sense, for sure, but in this case, I'm more or less pointing us in the direction of like that pain point. Like, how do we want to provide some kind of ontology semantics based assistance to address a pain point that is being experienced by SMEs. And so we need to, my inclination is to ask specific questions about the pain point. Like I want to know everything I can about how they currently optimize things, how long things take according to their understanding, how many planes they have, how many people they have. you know,
Got it.
like that.
So I guess we need to ask what are some pain points when it comes to maintenance?
Yeah, I think we have. So last time, I think we have kind of a high, pretty good guidance or somewhat good guidance on there being like a standard optimization problem on display. Too many flights or too many planes that are
That
operating
are
too many
operating.
people, and we need to
And
like
we need
figure out how to help them optimize, and they're having a hard time. They have different databases with different information stored in different places, and there's a lot of implicit information that they're calculating in their head or like reasoning through in their head that's not going into like a straightforward formula. So we want to get like that information, integrated across databases. We also want to get whatever's implicit in their heads out and make it explicit. But all in the interest of addressing the kind of optimization problem. So
I think I would want to ask, um, going back to the logging of maintenance question, um, I don't know if I should keep going.
Keep going. Ask the question.
Okay. Okay. Um, um, what determines what engineers are working on the maintenance of the engine and like how, like, what does that process look like? Is that just based off location? Is that just based off of where the closest engineer is?
So kind of the big picture here, they use the structure repair manual kind of sets forth the guidelines of who can do what and also what how long a task will take. So if you have to replace a whole engine, there's a manual that says it takes, 80 hours of work to do. But there's thousands of different maintenance tasks from replacing a specific piece of metal and riveting to the frame to a hydraulic hose replacement, tire replacement. They all have uh, set numbers of drawings, um, explicit instructions on how to do it, and a book hour for how long it should take to do that specific task, whatever it might be. And that also includes the annual maintenance task and the semi-annual as well as the operating hours based
I guess to
maintenance task as
piggyback,
well.
yeah, and to piggyback off that, what tasks cause the most delay across your fleet and or the bottlenecks? Do you have ideas of that? Like tank time, manpower, documentation, or getting the planes in? I'm just
So the planes. So my biggest problem is engines. They're the most costly thing. They take forever to repair, and repair times listed in the manual never match what the mechanics do.
okay. The most costly and, and doesn't match the actual stuff. Okay.
It's like $13 million per engine, and they always mess
Ooh,
it up, and I have to replace it all the time, much more often than I should.
mechanics do?
No, so I have to. My pain point is I'm trying to determine when what is the problem? Are my mechanics messing it up, or do I have a manufacturer problem from GE, who I bought these engines from? Like, I don't know how to determine that. I can't. Everything's in different databases. The documentation is done, but I don't have the people or the staff to really dig into and spend, 6 months trying to figure this out. I got a fleet of like 500 747s that I'm managing.
Okay. It's $13 million.
So that's $54 million per plane times, how many did I say I had? 500.
Yeah.
So that's $27 million or $270 million, excuse me. I can buy a couple new planes for that, for all the costs that I'm doing for the engine. I need to figure out if I need to buy new planes or fire some mechanics, get a new supervisor. Like, I have no idea where this is going wrong. Go sue GE. I don't know. Yeah, these are good questions. Who else has questions?
Well, I mean, something I was going to say is that I feel like we're perpetually either understaffed or we've got people working on things that they really don't need to be working on when we've got like a completely disassembled engine just sitting around for like weeks at a time. And I just wish we were like we had a bit more optimization in terms of how we were allocating our human resources.
Okay. So your mechanics maybe not have don't get the well, they're having to spend longer time in maintenance, right? And probably because of the understaffed or they're not working on the right projects, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do
So
you, I get
what's
because you
the
guys said go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, what is the workflow of those meetings? What are the things that are discussed and how are tasks delegated?
Well, generally, we'll have a general group of supervisors that are assigned for any given overall maintenance task for a whole plane, and there will be team leaders at those meetings, and then we'll sort of go through what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, come up with a general timeline. And then those team leaders go on and they go and form their team, and it's up to them to delegate the tasks and make sure that everyone's doing the work they're supposed to be doing. And then every so often they'll meet periodically to just give updates to the supervisors. Um, Supervisors might call for impromptu meetings if they feel like something needs to be done faster or that they feel like a better job needs to be done, or if the inspectors have some issues with what was being done, they'll communicate all that through the supervisors.
So another problem we have is if the airplane is at an airport where we don't have a hub, we don't necessarily have mechanics there, so we have to contract that out, and then they it's kind of hard to keep track of what they do as well. So we got if they're at one of our hubs, because we're a small company, we don't have that many small to medium sized company with a smaller fleet of airplanes, but so we don't have the money or the resources to put mechanics at every airport where we have a hub where we operate from.
So then how does the maintenance of those engines compare to the maintenance of engines um, when your own mechanics are working on them?
I don't know because the systems don't interoperate, so they'll use different systems.
Good morning, team.
And we
So
have to
yesterday
we get
I
them emailed, we get the documents emailed to us, so we have to manually enter all the data into our system. You know, we got people doing all kinds of crazy stuff to figure out what they did, what the contract maintenance did versus what our in-house mechanics did. So I see John Beverly stepped away for a minute, but I think one of the other things, like I wasn't here for the first one, uh, the kickoff round, so I'm not quite sure was what was discussed last week. But um, as a part of this, you definitely want to ask what systems they're using, so you can get an idea. The more specific you can be, and the more clarifying questions you can ask, the better, usually.
because I would assume like the systems like after maintenance and stuff, or even after pilots land, somewhere they have to log in how many hours it is, and that goes into the database, right?
Yeah, but if we don't have a hub and the contracted mechanics are using something another system versus my system, because I don't want my proprietary, you know, I have my fleet of Boeing aircraft, but Boeing doesn't like their drawings getting out. They have some proprietary designs, etc., and they protect that
Right.
information. So,
So they're limited what they can do
yep.
because of that. And well, I guess what I'm getting at is if the pilots every time they get off the plane and they log in how many hours they are, what is the what's the word I'm looking for? Not benchmark, but hey, it's due at this is going to be due at 1,200 hours, and but you can go up to 1,300 hours and be not get in trouble. And then that way, if that's in the system, we could then say, okay, this flight that it's on next is going to take it to 1,400 hours. That'll put it over, so we can't fly that one, but we could fly into one of our nearest hubs and get that maintenance done and still be under the 1,250, the 1,200 or whatever. So that's why I'm asking about the hours getting in there and whatever things are needed in there, so that that can help route the plane to get those things done and save you money from instead of having to go to a hub that's not having your mechanics there.
I mean, I think we got the hours down pretty good. In terms of like just logging them, the FAA checks all that stuff when you land. They're pretty strict on that. They do spot checks at all the airports. It's
Right.
more so the quality of the maintenance and just the unscheduled breakdowns, etc. Of we don't know the cause.
Right. So I gotta get back to the so it's but it sounds to me like you have great documentation per se that we could analyze those, try and figure out and pinpoint, what's that root cause.
Our documentation is all over the place.
So it's all paper, not so we got to centralize
I,
it somehow
I
or
mean,
bring it
I mean,
together.
some, I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job of making sure everything's digital now. It's just that we've got so many different databases. We can't get them all in one place.
Okay. And is each database specific, like one's for engines, or it's the same database, just a different instance of it at other locations, and they don't talk.
No, I mean we'll well, I'm actually not sure how updating works. I maybe Samuel might know more about that, but it's just even if you've got them all on the same computer, it's like we've literally just got different databases. They've been entered into different places. They've been um, the yeah, they're not all in one place. So we can't just open it up and see, oh, what was going on with this plane at this time. We've got to like check four, five, six different places to gather all that data just for one plane. Um,
Got it.
Yeah, so some of the software that's out there is one's called Wings, another's called you got the IATA Aircraft Maintenance Cost Data Exchange, you got the Electronic Aircraft Maintenance Record System, um, and then you got the Instruction for Continued Airworthiness from the manufacturers, and you got airworthiness directories. So, the stuff's all over the place.
Okay.
Would it be a good question to ask, like what kinds of data is being pulled out of these databases, and then like what their method is for using that data to solve the problems that they're facing? Kind of just like what is an example of like the process that they're doing and like having them describe that to you.
Yeah, that's a great question because all these databases, and I'm not an aircraft maintenance expert. I do have some maintenance background in aircraft, but definitely not an expert. So the instructions for continued airworthiness comes from the manufacturers. Let's see, the aircraft maintenance data cost data exchange. It's a global aggregated identified database that provides benchmarking on aircraft maintenance costs. Um, the wings that I mentioned is aviation management solution designed around best practices for aerospace companies. Uh, there's another one, Veyron Publications. So that's the technical side of it. So a mechanic would have to go to, let's call it Veyron Publications, to get the technical and regulatory publications for call it the 5,000 hour maintenance cycle for the engine. Then they would have to go up, go actually do the work. Then they would have to also check the manufacturer's stuff because the manufacturers don't always share data. Um, that was the electronic aircraft maintenance records system I mentioned. So, and the manufacturers will feed that too, for some of their directives. So if Boeing finds a critical fault, they'll feed it out to everybody. But if they find something that's not so critical, they might not feed it to that system. And then they'll go do the work, and then they'll go record how long it took. Um, I think in some cases they actually have to upload pictures too, so they have to upload it in probably multiple systems, and then they go from there. So it would be, to your question, Hannah, it would be it's an excellent question to ask. But those would be the details you're looking to dig out. Who does what,
Yeah.
where, and then names of databases and systems, so you can get an idea of how it's structured. Developers will need that to kind of figure out how to make the ontology once you get to that point. Then we have to, and then you got the aircraft maintenance data cost exchange, which is just another solution that's saying, what, hey, this is the average cost, and then you can compare what your costs are to everybody else. Um, See if you're spending too much, too little. But that's an aggregated database that provides benchmarking on aircraft maintenance costs, supporting decisions on fleet expansion, make versus buy assessments, and trend analysis. And that would be a management more so than a, mechanic on the ground.
I didn't get everything that you said, but I kind of tried to summarize it here of like what I asked and what I would be looking for, like what answers I'm looking from the SWE.
Um, I would say yes, I would say, yeah, maybe modify the terminology. If you're talking to a SME, I'd say what tasks are being done, um, instead of data, because people have a huge different number of interpretations for data. So repair,
Okay.
routine maintenance, etc. And, kind of just to show you how this would be done, right? When you would start building an ontology, because they have like, I don't know how many tasks they have, but each manufacturer has a different task, and they'll have services and tasks and repairs that you'll have to aggregate and figure out how much time it took on a system and or a task. You also have to, let's see, what's the best word? Untangle or figure out. You definitely have to categorize because a unscheduled repair task for a landing gear or an engine, if something breaks, might reset the service task. So if you fix and repair something, there's a decision in there to say, hey, we were in another 300 hours, we were going to have to do this anyway, but this part broke. So we're going to go ahead and complete this task while we got the engine apart. And they would reset services. Those would be actual conversations they would be having in their maintenance meetings. The mechanics would, if it's a good supervisor or mechanic, they would say, hey, we had this service coming up, we got this apart. We're only 150 hours away since we got this apart already. Takes 27 hours to do this service, but this repair, we'll just do another 3 hours and we'll be complete with call it the 5,000 hour service.
Mm.
So those would be considerations that all the maintenance folks and actual SMEs would actually be looking at. And you'll have to draw that out and figure out what they want to do. Um, so do they want to know, are they not being efficient and doing a simple repair and not looking at, the bigger picture? So, they, instead of doing two 27-hour services, one for a repair and the next one for a service, you can just add that extra 3 hours because you already got the airplane apart. That's a very complicated question once you start digging into it, but those are the kind of things you want to bring out to figure out what they want to answer. And if the subject matter experts want to go in a different direction and they want to say, hey, I, that you could also, let's see, if they want to go in a different direction, you could say, hey, how many failures do I have on this certain system or this certain part? Those are definitely things people look at as well. Uh, And you already kind of hit on it, but to get that implicit knowledge, somebody asked about the locations earlier. So the locations, you could say, hey, are all my failures occurring at a certain location? Or, do a decent percentage of my failures occur at, Dulles Airport, as an example. Um, so this is the things the subject matter experts already look at. You just got to bring it out and figure out how we can add value via an ontology. And it's cross-referencing it. And especially when you start getting into the higher, it's relatively easy to do at the lower numbers and with less complicated aircraft. But once you start getting into, hundreds and thousands of aircraft fleets, it becomes very complicated, um, very management intensive to get all that stuff done. So I also think, let's see, what other questions do we have or clarifications do you need? Was this helpful?
Yes, this was helpful. I think if we had like all of the details for all of these questions answered, what would like wrapping up that kind of meeting look like? Is it, hey, I have some semblance of an idea of like where you guys need to optimize or how I can pull in this data? Or is it like, I don't know, like how does that kind of wrap up?
Um, so yeah, I think it wraps up. Yeah, you definitely want to wrap up and say, okay, hey, we're going to need access to the data. So who do we contact, in your organization so we can actually start getting access to the data? So you always want to ask for just some of the practical information. It's like, hey, all right, got it. Thanks for your time. Appreciate the meeting. And then if you don't have it, like, hey, you know, we talked to so and so, but who's the POC for getting access to uh the maintenance cost data exchange? What do we need to do? Who do we need to contact? That'd be a good question. And then maybe say, all right, thanks for your time. We'll send out a summarized meeting notes here in a little bit. Make sure we got captured everything, and then follow up, and we'll get to work. Those are examples of things you could do to close out a meeting with a SME. And the context always depends on obviously it's all situational dependent, but if you don't know how or where to get something, those are definitely questions to make sure you ask. At the end of the meeting, always offer a summarize. My just in my experience, it's always good to offer, hey, follow up with a summary note. Say, hey, did we get everything? Any other thoughts? Anything else you want to add? You know, please let us know. And yeah, that'd be my recommendation.
Okay.
So I think we're almost out of time, and John is still not back. So I think what John is going to ask you to do is post some DSQs, decision support questions, based on all of this. So based on everything for the ontology, all the notes that you have so far, he's going to ask, at least he did last time, probably will this time. He's going to ask for people to put into the Slack a DSQ. How do you want to do the DSQs? And I think Hannah, you kind of had that up there. So what are the decision support questions you're gonna start answering? And there's a format for it. I don't have it I personally don't have it, so you might have to ask somebody to paste it, but how they're doing, how do you structure a DSQ and a competency question to kind of start so you can start building the ontology. So you can answer the questions. Did I get that right, John?
Sounded
John
right.
K. John K.
No, I mean, I don't know if that's right or not. I'll just, I assume it is.
Okay. Yeah, mainly on the DSQs and the competency questions. I know there's some people have different views on that, but yeah, the next step is going to be start going into phase two, start developing the I believe it's the competency questions. So what do you need to do to start building your on so you can start building classes, et cetera, in the ontology? Um,
Hannah, would you mind sharing that with us in some
Yeah, of
format?
course.
Awesome.
Is there a preference to the chat or to Slack?
I think Slack might be better just because the chat will disappear, but
Okay.
Slack people can go back and refer to it.
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
okay, I have to go because I have my day job to go to.
Yep.
So
Good
uh,
stuff.
yep. Thanks everyone.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Smooth
Bye.
it.